dealing with the Russian Revolution, because I think we've got a pretty good start dealing with that great event, historical event. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Alana McLaughlin, and she's giving us some information in reference to the Russian Revolution, a revolution that occurred almost immediately after the First World War that started in 1914 and came to an end in 1917. And that would be the sort of historical beginning of what we're talking about now, the destruction of an entire Russian society, and now an attempt to what? Rebuild that society. Yeah, rebuild that society. Approach it from that perspective.
Well, for our viewers just tuning in the first segment, we did go through my background in education, but more importantly, we kind of talked about what the revolution was. Now, the Russian Revolution is the big name for two sets of revolutions that occurred in 1917, right after the First World War. These revolutions kick-started the overthrowing of the Tsarist autocracy, and I talked about what an autocracy was, which is a one-person-led society. It's just one big leader that rules government, and et cetera, et cetera. And I talked about, you know, they overthrew this, and also the Russian Revolution was the Kickstarter for the Soviet Union. Now, the Soviet Union is a party. It's a political party, just like, you know, Republican or Democrat.
Coming out of the Communist Party.
Coming from communists. Now, the Soviet Union's big idea was that all persons should have equal rights, equal property, just everybody should just be equal. There was no personal property, everything belonged to the state, really. But they tried to make all people equal. Now, you could see that it might sound, you know, fair and good in the end, but it doesn't really work. Now, something like this couldn't be instilled in America because we have different rankings of people. We have the higher class, we have the lower class, middle class, working class, all that. And to make all these people into one little division.
Equal.
Yeah.
Everything is equal under that system. Is that what
wouldn't necessarily work, because while all men are equal, all their possessions and some skills and et cetera are not equal. And so the Soviet Union tried to just take away all personal properties. You know, you were just blank, basically. You were nothing but, me and you were the same. Even though we're quite different people, in their eyes, we're the same. We're not individual. And something like that isn't really a smart idea to do for a country, because people are individuals, and to try to classify them into one small division doesn't really make sense, because you cannot classify all people into one thing. Just like if I go into a building and I say everyone in here is middle class, that wouldn't be true, because everywhere you go you'll have lower class, higher class, middle class, things like that.
Are you saying that even though there's an attempt to make everybody equal, that all individuals are not, the same, and therefore, no matter what kind of system you develop, you have to make arrangements for those differences within America, within individuals. Is that what we're saying? Yeah,
and some lesser-known political parties say that, you know, people are equal, but we're different. And that's true. No man is worth more than the other, yet we just have different skills. No, we're not the same. Like me and you, we both deserve the same things, deserve the same treatment, but we're not the same. We're not on the same levels. And that's kind of what the Soviet Union wanted to do to all the Russian people. Like, the capital city for the Soviet Union was Moscow, and that was also the largest city. And this was Russia. The biggest country in the Soviet Union was Russia. And so I'm kind of focusing in on Russia because of the Russian Revolution. And so in making all those people the same, it didn't really work out. And so, but here's a surprising fact. After 1917, once the revolution started, once it ended, this was 1922 at this point. That's when the Soviet Union really came into power and was classified as an actual party. The Soviet Union did not end until 1991, July of 1991. So this actually lasted, and it was incorporated for the Russian people. And so this was, 1991 was about 20-ish years ago. This really went on for a long time, and people don't see that. They think of, when they hear Soviet Union, they think of, oh, this was back during Lenin and the Tsarist autocracy. This was very close to 27. This is 2017. That was not a long time ago, and so it's very strange to look at it that way, because the Soviet Union was still coming into power when we had like modern televisions and stuff like that. It's very strange to think about.
You know, Alana, thinking about the Soviet Union and some of the things that you've already said about equality of opportunity and et cetera, I think that you can look at the Constitution of the United States of America and say, in reality, these are some of the things that are promised in the United States Constitution. Now, what made Russia different from the United States?
Well, see, the United States, the Constitution says, you know, all people are equal and all this and that. That's not really how America treats their citizens, or the United States. You could say that all people are equal and all people get equal chances. That's not really what happens, because, and I feel like in the Constitution, things like that were promised so that we could kind of instill it in the country, and maybe like over time we'd start to believe it. But that has yet to happen, because we still have hate crimes and hate groups and KKK and things like that. And so up until we actually start to instill the things that the Constitution says, like black people have the right to vote, but there are still voting centers in predominantly black cities that get